Should we just go?
Oh, yeah.
Oh wait, I have a theme song now. It's completely original. Don't get your hopes up, do do do, do 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 do. That's our theme song.
You should have kept going, man.
No, that's the whole. It's a real short. Like,
oh, it's an
you know
edit.
how podcasts you're supposed to have like a
like
podcast
yeah.
at the start, and then you go.
Nah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's our intro now.
Okay, I should go back for
3 years in.
some echo or delay on that just to kind of spice it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, I can't do that with my current setup.
Don't worry, I'll do it in post.
Okay, good.
Or I'll forget, one of the two. You'll know by now if you're listening.
Indeed. Welcome everyone back to Don't Get Your Hopes Up, the weekly podcast that we do every week without fail. My name is Josh Allen, aka Lore, and if you've forgotten, the other guy is Mike B, aka Fony.
Hello,
sir.
Mr. Dependable.
Mr. Dependable. Always there every single week.
Every time. Yep, always there.
Without fail. That's how we've managed to consistently put out an episode every single week for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of not any work, but
we should start a Patreon for a week for our weekly series.
Put weekly in quotation marks.
That's gonna be our next. That's because as long as these episodes have in between each episode, right? The quote unquote week. By the time we get to like April 1st, it'll be like a month or so. That's when we drop the Patreon. And it's like weekly episodes, and just we'll see you guys in August.
Yeah. So speaking of August, by which I mean speaking of a summer month, by which I mean speaking of a month in which the sun is at its highest, by which I mean speaking of the eclipse that happened today.
Oh.
I've been playing a lot of Dark and Light lately.
There we go about the eclipse. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's okay. The eclipse conversation is pretty short. Well, the moon showed up at the right place at the right time.
The best thing about the eclipse, because like as cool as it is to see an eclipse happen, like Google image search eclipse and you'll see 1,000 examples of exactly what happened today. It's not nearly as irregular as people say it is. It's cool to have gone and looked at one at one point in your life, but I did that in like 99, so I'm not super worried about it.
Yeah, I will say it was my first time, and I just happened to have glasses that my buddy left. And so I was like,
from the last one?
No. He had a bunch. And he was like, and I'm watching his house while he's like traveling right now, and he had a bunch on his counter, and he's like, oh, I got to send them back because Amazon like did a recall. And I looked up what the recall was for, because it's just fucking dark film. Like what can they recall for, right? And they said that
amplifies the brightness of the sun. Do not wear under any circumstances.
No, they just recalled them because NASA didn't provide the documentation needed to certify that they were indeed good for viewing. But NASA did say, it was like a verbal agreement, and NASA was like, yeah, they're good. Here, Amazon, sell them, right? And then Amazon's like, oh, well, they didn't give us the documentation, so we just kind of want to cover our asses. And I was like, you know what? I trust NASA. Like, they landed on fucking Mars. They're flying by fucking planets. Like, I trust that they know what they're doing, at least when it comes to just making a piece of plastic dark enough for me to look at momentarily to look at the sun.
Yeah.
And so that's what and so I did that this morning. I woke up and I went outside and I looked at looked at it. And you can't look, there's nothing to really see. You look at it and like, it's kind of cresting and it's like, okay, cool. And then I go back inside and I eat some cereal, whatever, and take a shit. And then it's like, okay, well, let's go outside again, and go outside. It's like, oh, cool. It's like covering more of it. And then come back inside, jerk off, and then go back inside. Like, oh, cool. Now it's like, that's like the apex for what we saw, which is like a really tight crescent because we're not in the direct path. But I will say it was pretty cool. It was a lot cooler than I thought it would be. I was like, this is probably dumb, right? It's like, yeah, it's doing this thing. I see it on TV all the time. But to see it in person, I actually felt like, whoa, cool. It was my first time. Like you said, in 99, you did it, right?
Yeah, I think it was then. It was around then. Someone earlier today said that they saw one in 99, so that's where I got that number from.
Mm-hmm.
But it may have been that the one in 99 was on some other part of the world. Either way, I was more of a kid at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was neat. Anyways, you were talking about something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dark and Light. I just basically I started a transition at the start of this and didn't really know where I was going until I found my destination at the end. Sometimes it's about the journey.
Speaking of destination, no, it's too early for transition. Sorry.
I mean, I'm down. Roll with it.
Tell me about fucking Dark.
We can always
I was
circle
gonna go
back.
right into Destiny. So now,
okay.
No. Tell me about Dark and Light, because I know very little about it, except for when I watch your stream, I see a little goblin or something running around building a house constantly. So that's all I ever see him do.
Have you played Ark?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then you've played Dark and Light. It's literally Ark.
Okay.
Everything in the game right now is more. So basically, as I understand it, and I haven't done all the research myself. This is just what I've heard from mostly like Shizzle and Thaddeus talking about it. Dark and Light, it was an MMO in development for ages that was going basically nowhere. Like, it was just in development hell. It wasn't going to ever see the light of day or the dark of day.
No.
Dark of night, I guess. It wasn't going to happen. And then the company that owns the company that's making the company that owns the developers of Dark and Light bought the developers of Ark, and they basically took Ark and went to the other company and was like, here, we got a game for you, make it pretty. Take your game, paint it over top of this game, now you have a game. And surprisingly, the end result is actually decent.
What?
You wouldn't think that, but it seems to actually be doing fairly well so far. So it's very like medieval fantasy. Kind of like Ark, exactly like Ark, you have multiple factions. In this case, it's dwarves, elves, and humans. But even within those, like, the character creator is super robust, so you can do all sorts of crazy shit. Like, I'm technically part of the dwarven faction on my character, but I made him green, I gave him long ears.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Big old nose, so he looks like a goblin.
Your height, maybe, but that's where it stops, because I seriously thought you looked like a little goblin running around. Huh.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just able to poke around at, like, I don't look like a WoW goblin necessarily, but I look like the sort of thing that you'd look at that and
I mean, you kind of
your brain would go, this is probably like a goblin or a small orc.
You look like a ripped goblin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really fucking swole goblin.
And so far the game it's pretty fun. Like, I've been spending most of my time building a house lately, mostly because I managed to screw up. It has a bug that Ark also has, or I guess accidental feature that Ark also has, which is if you create like a clan for yourself just to be in your own clan because you get like some stuff out of it, I guess.
Which a lot of people do.
Yeah. And then you leave that clan. Like, when you make it, all of the ownership of all of your stuff transfers to the clan, because that's what clans are for in the game. And then if you leave that clan because, say, you decide that you didn't like the name of it and you wanted a different name, the old clan with now no one in it owns all of your stuff.
Jesus.
So that's what I did, not thinking, and ended up having to knock down my existing house and build a new one.
How long did that take?
Ages. It took me a couple of days to do it.
Wow,
and
really?
Fortunately, one of the other guys on the server found this. It was actually really funny. I was live streaming it at the time. He got this. It's called a Bahamut. It's a really, really big, like, lizard, basically. And he was like, "Here, this should help with knocking stuff down." And so I hopped on it, and just walked up to my house and literally stood in it. And because this thing is so big, it was like not able to fit in the doors. And it just slowly destroyed everything, like, a little bit at a time. It was really funny. But yeah, it's really fun. It's basically Ark. If you like that sort of open world survival gameplay, it's early access, but because it's just a reskin of Ark, at the moment at least, they're adding more stuff. But at the moment, it's basically just a reskin of Ark. It's fairly fully featured. And so you don't you don't play it and go, oh yeah, when they finish adding the rest of the game, this might be fun. Like, you play it and go, okay, yeah, this is decent.
So when's the first expansion?
Yeah, exactly. The early access expansion. That's one of the biggest things I'm worried about overall, just based on what happened with Ark. The problem I have with it is without the RP, because I'm playing on the Twitch RP server, I guess I should clarify as well. So I'm playing a goblin, just character I made up, a traveling merchant by the name of Spazric Greenfinger.
He has a voice that might be pretty familiar to some people, depending on what else you've been paying attention to lately.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so I have this RP going on, and I'm a traveling merchant, and I sort of fly around when I am not building my house, which is always. I sort of fly around, I'm like,
Traveling merchant looking for trade.
like shouting at people, trying to meet other people. And it sort of creates my own, like, extra gameplay out of it as a result. It's really interesting to me how, like you've watched a lot of GTA RP.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
you're the one that sort of got me to start watching it, and now I've watched a lot of GTA RP. And when you watch those guys, like the people like Moon or Sheriff Eli, yeah, Coolidge, all of those guys, you watch them, and like the entire point is the RP. Like there's technically a game there, but the game is just sort of something that they use as a canvas for the RP.
Totally. Yep.
That's different with Dark and Light, because there's a game there, and there's a game with a lot of engaging mechanics, and you end up spending a lot of your time just playing the game. But also you have this RP element on top of it, which means that the RP is a bit lighter as a result. Like, all the people that are playing are less focused on trying to create an individual narrative. There's a few that are starting to sort of surface, but people are less overall focused on trying to, you know, make up an entire storyline that happens. Like there was a big one that happened recently in the Family RP, GTA RP, that involved like a murderer and like Frank Murdoch and his kid, and like a whole bunch of shit was going on. Yeah, it was pretty nuts. That's not something that's happened at all in Dark and Light as of yet, because most people are just focused on, I want to build a house and I want to get a dragon and I want to be able to ride around on it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it'll start to flesh out more once people get a little bit more established. And so like I'm sort of establishing myself on the server as this merchant, and I'm going to be able to use that to sort of bump up the RP a little bit, because I'll then be able to like spread rumors around, and I'll be able to go from place to place and meet different people and tell them to talk to each other and ask about where I can get. So, you know,
You're
like there's a few angles that you
fucking
can
create profit in the end. Like your character profit, which
it's the same character,
yeah,
more or less.
Yeah,
it's the same general concept of the character.
This is the origin story.
Yeah. My first real RP goal is to get everybody on the server to start trading things using the gold that's in the game. Oh, excuse me. Don't drink beer, or don't breathe beer. It's bad for you.
Right.
Jesus. Hang on. But my first main RP goal for my character is to establish gold as a currency, so that people trade using gold as a currency instead of currently, which is like, I have these hide.
Barter.
Do you have any? Yeah. Do you have any ore you can give me for this hide, sort of thing?
Yeah.
So like I've started. There's ways that you can sort of farm it up, and I've started going and farming it up, and then when I trade with somebody, I will take their stuff and just give them gold if they'll take it. That sort of thing. And offer, like, yeah, I've got these rocks here, and you can have them for 20 gold each, or something like that.
Interesting. That's great.
But yeah, and like that's the sort of like, I think once people are less worried about, and also once the server population gets stable, because they've been having trouble with, like, a lot of people seem to treat things like Twitch RP as, I want to play this game and I want to play it on a server that is hard to get into. So I'll pick up this game and I'll apply to Twitch RP and I'll get whitelisted. And then, oh, this game isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. Well, I'm done. Abandoned forever. And then they never come back. So, like, right now, there's a whole bunch of just abandoned buildings sitting around on a regular... They end up getting knocked down. They decay after time. But yeah, once the server population stabilizes a little bit better, once the other factions, like the Dwarven faction, is doing pretty well in terms of establishing some RP. But I think the Elven faction is kind of getting there, and the Human faction seems to not exist currently on the server.
Huh. Like isn't nobody's picking it?
Yeah, like there were a bunch at one point, but I think most of them left early on. And now there's like 2 humans who mostly live in the elf areas.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a moderately interesting game. Made a lot more fun by the addition of RP, and like, so my character has a friend named Brack that he ends up spending a lot of time hanging around in, and like we'll just go on adventure. Like yesterday, we decided to go out and do like the traveling merchant thing, but we came across a unicorn, which I didn't know existed in the game, and he'd only seen one before at like a distance that ran away. And so I picked it up using my Nidhogg that I was flying around on, which is like a miniature dragon, basically.
Yeah.
Flew it back to my place, stuck it on my balcony, and we tamed it right on the balcony. It was like, okay, now I've tamed a unicorn in this game. Great. And that's the sort of thing that only ends up happening because the RP sort of initiated it, which is cool.
So, damn, I mean, okay. There's so many possibilities, like, you know, I mean, even just with the unicorn story alone, it's like, well, how rare are they? Can you actually like sign over a tamed animal to another person? In which you can sign it, so you can So
yeah,
damn.
So I could sell this to somebody if I wanted to.
Yeah, wow.
I don't, but I could if I wanted to.
Yeah. So I mean, somebody could basically set up like a rare pet. Imagine like a hunter in WoW with a bunch of rare pets having a stable that he can actually open up as a shop and sell them, you know?
Yeah.
Like exactly. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Man, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's really fun. If you're interested, you should apply for the Twitch RP server.
I would probably try the game first. So I'm not that guy.
I didn't. I literally didn't. I just bought the game for Twitch RP.
And you just went right in. I could see it definitely adding a huge layer of depth, though. Just all the different things you could do.
It's not actually true. I bought it after watching Thad play it because I thought it was cool, and I just hadn't played it yet. And then I think it was Moon was like, "You should apply for the Twitch RP server." And I was like, "Okay." And then like a week later, I got in.
How much is it? I'm looking.
It wasn't super cheap.
Oh, it's $30. That's not bad. It's Arc.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It'd be weird, I guess, if it was anything else. Mixed reviews. Probably a lot of people are like, "Oh, here we go." Wow, look, I was just, as I was scrolling down, I was gonna say probably a bunch of people like, "Here we go again," because of Arc. And sure enough, one of the highest rated comments right here, reviews, says, "Wow, here we go again."
Yeah,
man.
And I don't blame him at all. Like I say, it's a game that I think needs the RP to be fun.
Sure.
And I currently have access to that. If I would not recommend someone just pick it up for the sake of picking it up to play. Especially at this stage. Not least because last night they tried to put out. Was it last night or the night before? Night before it must have been. They tried to put out a update, which they've decided that a bunch of the areas in the game, because there's like NPCs and major cities and stuff that aren't player driven in the game, they decided that a bunch of areas are going to have content in them at some point, so they just cleared out all of the buildings that people had put there. So like the group that Thad plays with, their house evaporated.
Oh my god.
It's just gone. And then there was a major bug with that build, so they ended up rolling it back. But all this, like, even though now Thad and the Darkstone Dwarves, like, their house could still be there, it's not, because it got deleted from the server when it updated. So, yeah. At this stage, unless you're really committed to RP, I would say no. But if you are, then apply for the Twitch RP server, because we need more people.
Or yeah, all right, yeah. No, I mean, it's only $30. I'll take a look at it and see what's up. How long do you think people are going to play it for?
Don't know.
Because RP, it's like a weird factor, like any random. Oh yeah, survival game. Oh yeah, 30 days, right? But when you add RP, like that's a whole nother factor.
Yeah. I will know more in probably the next 30 days. Because we're kind of at the point right now where like people like Moon and Thad haven't been playing because they're waiting for an update, which is coming soon. But if that update comes, and this the update that they wanted to start trying to roll out the day before yesterday, but there was a different bug with the bug with the update wasn't that a whole bunch of people's houses got erased. Like that was going to happen regardless. There was a different bug that was making it not work at all.
Jesus.
But there's a big content update on the way, as well as a lot of optimization they've been doing, because the game occasionally runs like complete dog shit right now.
Oh, just out of nowhere, huh?
It's in specific areas now is more or less what it's isolated to. But like, if you wow, excuse me, all of the burps all of a sudden. If you roll up on a spot where there's a whole bunch of player buildings, while all of those are rendering, at first it just sort of starts to block things in, and you'll sort of see this building start to materialize in front of you. But after a couple of seconds of that, it just tanks, and you get 1 frame per second for a while. And because it's an RP server, people aren't always just building buildings to be functional. They're also thinking a lot more about, like, well, this building I want to be a mage tower, so it needs to look like this and have all these extra decorations and stuff on it. So the buildings end up being a lot more complicated than if someone was to be like, I have stuff, I would like to protect my stuff. Here is a giant box that I can put my stuff in. So it means that the frame rates tend to drop down to basically nothing. It's gotten a lot better than it was, so I'm confident that they're, like, you remember when PUBG used to run like shit all of the time?
Yeah.
And now it's actually pretty okay. Occasionally has issues still, but it's forgivable.
Yeah, it was like the Daisy issue. Yeah, you go into like a town and it was all shit.
Yeah. That's kind of what Dark and Light is right now, is you go into a town and it's all shit for a while, or you fly past a town and it's all shit for a while. But for the most part, it's actually pretty playable now.
Interesting.
But yeah, regardless, overall, I would say if you're not going to immediately get into the RP, hold off on Dark and Light, because the game there isn't enough game there just yet, I don't think. We'll see what it is that they add on. If you are into RP, then go for it. I just don't know yet if people are going to stick around past the next update. We're like I say, we're kind of at the point where most of the people that are kind of expected to drive the roleplay on the server are on the verge of giving up on it. And that's not to say that they will.
Right.
But it'll be really rough if they do, because then other people will have to drive the RP.
So just out of curiosity, did you change the game from Dark and Light to... Oh, you're playing Dauntless, weren't you? Before the stream.
What?
You were playing Dauntless
before the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Because I was just curious if you were... Because I'm looking at the views. Right now, the view count for Dark and Light, which is sometimes a pretty good gauge on what the interest is.
Oh, yeah, no one's streaming.
No one's streaming, yeah. And it said 130 people are watching, and I thought maybe you had it set to that, but no.
I pretty regularly, like, even though I've got in my, like, title Twitch RP and, like, the name of my character and everything, I pretty regularly get people coming in just asking about the game itself, because I'm the top stream in the Dark and Light section.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't been the top stream in a section in a very long time.
Oh, you haven't played some of the indie games that I've played then?
No, I mostly play games that other people play.
Yeah, that's the... Yeah. All right. Dang. So, other games you're playing, Dauntless.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
Yeah.
Here's what I know about it.
Okay.
It's beautiful. And it's got some pretty solid action combat with a couple quirks. But the quirks sound like things that can be fixed.
Yes.
And then outside of that, it seems like combat is very sporadic, because it kind of goes, and you're going to hate that I say this, but it looks a lot like Terra in terms of how the game plays, where it's, instead of having a shitload of small mobs all over the place, like any other random MMO, it's like they're mostly larger boss fights. Almost like mini boss fights.
It's literally Monster Hunter. Like, the game is Monster Hunter. Full stop. It is Monster Hunter. It's Monster Hunter minus some mechanics at the moment. Who knows if they're actually going to add those in. The combat to me feels a lot more like Dark Souls. I've never played Monster Hunter. So the combat to me feels a lot more like Dark Souls than it did Terra. Terra had the kind of almost reticle, but not quite, where it kind of, like, you just sort of had to look in the right direction, but not necessarily aim. If I'm remembering Terra correctly, it's been a long time since I played it, but I believe that was how.
Yeah, I don't know about ranged, but yeah, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you honestly if there was like some kind of locking, like a soft lock almost.
Yeah, I think for range, like, it ended up working a little bit like Tabula Rasa did, where it's like, as long as you have them in kind of this square area in front of you, then it locks on and you cast the spell at them. It doesn't work like that at all. The combat is more like Dark Souls in that you have, it's very animation based. Like, if you start a big heavy swing, you're going to take a big heavy swing. Your character can't decide halfway through that fuck gravity, it's time to roll out of the way.
Animation cancel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, apparently there's a few animation cancels that you can do, but you have to be like split second accurate with it. And so for the most part, it's about being really tactical with your motions, and deciding, okay, I think the boss is about to do an attack, so I should back away, rather than trying to mash my buttons and get as many hits in as possible. Which, in my opinion, ends up making the combat feel a lot more rewarding, because then when you do get in there and you get that string of, it's not just a matter of run at boss, hit, run away, run at boss, hit, run away. Like, you have to think about, okay, I'm going to run at the boss and I'm going to do 2 hits, but I'm not going to go for a third because I think he's about to do a move and I need to be able to back off.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And you're like thinking about your stamina as well. So like, I don't necessarily want to do a whole bunch of big heavy attacks right now because I need to be able to dodge in a second when he does a move.
Sounds like Terra, which sounds amazing. Like, I didn't play a lot of Dark Souls. I played just enough to kind of get the gist for the combat, and then I was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I get it, you know. But obviously I play a lot of Terra, and I've always loved that, just kind of an actiony. I'm kind of over, like, you know, medieval fantasy and some high fantasy, but Terra still, the combat was so good, I felt so good that it made me want to continue, like, you know, indulging myself in that stuff. It looks really good. It's
very pretty.
September 1st there's a beta coming up.
So
good.
This is the thing that I'm a little bit queasy about with the game so far. It just sort of occurred to me as we started talking about it here. Is it's in early access right now. It's going to be a free-to-play game, and they're saying Q4 2017. It's going to be a free-to-play game. It's going to release as free-to-play sometime in Q4 2017, which isn't far away.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a Founders Alpha right now, which is basically early access. And to get into the Founders Alpha, you have to spend $80 to buy a pack.
Yeah, it's like $80.
Yeah. You do get a second key with that, but it's a key for the closed beta, which is September 1st. And even that, to get into that, is $40. So it's kind of a high price for early access. It's a really high price for early access.
The $40 I get. And that having on the 1st, that's only a week away, you know? So
yeah,
that's not that big of a deal. I'll be playing it for sure. I'm curious though, because all I've seen is everybody was in like the same area. Like the first day it launched, it was super fucking annoying because everybody was just standing around in town. And whenever I finally found, I had like 9 streams open at a time, and I was just cycling through them looking for somebody that was getting into some combat. And then I found one guy who was getting into a fight with like a giant owl or something like that. And he ended up winning. And then it was like, it played the whole, like, you whatever, you defeated the dude or whatever, sing song. And then that was it. They went back to standing in the town. Is there, is it just because there's a lack of content right now? Or is it just because people are feeling it out and they just didn't know what the fuck to do?
It's probably because they've been having server problems. So the first day that it was available, it was actually really hard to get into a game. So you were probably seeing a lot of people streaming it, standing around waiting for it to actually spin up a game.
Yeah, they were like a lobby town or something.
Yeah. Yeah, the general, like, the content at the moment is, there's the town, which you can run around and do crafting and stuff in, kind of like the tower in Destiny. And then there's the boss fights, and it's just the one boss and everything. There's no like trash to clear or small mobs or anything. Like there's some goats running around, but those are there to hit for resources, not to like you have to clear them to get to the boss or anything.
Need to build up my rage. Punches the sheep.
Yeah. And that's basically it. The actual islands excuse me, don't seem to really be I'm just dying. There's like a few different ways that they can look, but they're all kind of the same at the moment. I guess there's different genomes that you can get to later on. I just haven't gotten to them yet, and it seems like most streamers haven't. But then again, like this is day 1 of their early access alpha.
Yeah.
But then again, they're saying that's going to release in Q4. So
yeah, it's like
either they've got a whole lot of content they're holding back right now, or they need to step it up.
Well, they're going right from closed early alpha to an open beta. Oh no! It's not open beta if they're not sending out keys. So it's
early alpha,
closed beta,
which is what it's in right now. Closed beta, and then I think there's an open beta a little bit later,
and then eventually free to play. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. The free to play part kind of scares me, I guess, a little bit. If there's not a buy, it's not a buy the box.
No.
Fuck, that's weird.
So yeah, they have like cores, they call them, and you take it. It's basically Hearthstone packs or Overwatch boxes. I'm expecting that, and those can have materials in them that you need to build gear, which is what worries me a little bit. Yeah. So if they end up being like, you can just buy 50, you can just buy 50 Shrike cores or whatever, and it's like, oh, cool, I want to craft all the Shrike gear, so let me buy a whole bunch of Shrike cores and open those up, and now I have all the parts. All I need to do is kill a couple bosses for some individual parts, whereas everybody else is like, fuck, I have to go farm a whole bunch of bosses to be able to get this stuff. Like, that will be pay to win instantly if that's what they end up going with. I'm hoping that's not what they do, for obvious reasons. But it's tough to tell the way the game is set up currently.
Right.
Maybe they've said something. I literally don't know anything about the game other than I've played a little bit of it at this point. So.
That's fair. That's pretty fair. I mean, you know a whole lot more than a lot of other people, because not everybody's buying into the $80 Play It Now pack.
Yeah, that was a moment of weakness. I probably shouldn't have, but
well, you're in it and you enjoy it, so I think that pretty much says it all.
And you do get, for the $80, it's important, you do get 2 keys for the $80. You get the Founder's Key, and then they give you a Slayer's Pack key, which is the $40 tier that gets into closed beta. They give you one of those keys to share with a friend. So if you and a friend are going to play the Slayer's tier, then one of you should buy the Founder's Pack right now and get $40 from the other guy and give them your key. Because then you get in right now and you get all the Founder's Pack stuff. Like if two people who know each other or have any form of contact with each other both buy the Slayer's Pack, they have done a stupid thing.
Yes, at this point I'll say thank you, Tanneros, for the key. Thank you so much. Yeah, so September 1st, I'll be there.
Sweet. I will outgear you.
Pay to win.
You'll have no chance.
I'll pay to win,
up.
bitch. I'll catch up.
You'll end up spending $400 on the game to catch up to me with my $80
But I didn't pay anything for the key. Yep.
Oh, apparently they've said the microtransactions are all going to be cosmetic, so that's a big relief for me.
That's good. Yeah. Sounds like Overwatch. I mean,
yeah.
As far as a recent example.
And in 2017, I think we've finally gotten to the point where game developers, at least if the people seem to start to understand that their microtransaction based game, the pay to win has to at least be somewhat dubious, like somewhat unclear if it actually gives you an advantage for it to work. Like Clash Royale is a game that you can very much pay to win in, but like you need to spend a few $1,000s to get past somebody who's playing for free. Like at the about $100 point is probably where you have an advantage. Past that, not really. And I think most other mobile games and microtransaction games these days aren't doing the whole buy the best gear right now if you want, go for it, or farm for the next 400 years sort of thing, which is good. People have started to understand that actually kills
games.
Free to play games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kills games. Seriously, when you're like, oh, free to play. Oh Yeah.
I mean, I said this ages ago, but to me, I think the important philosophical thing that game publishers need to understand about free-to-play games is that free-to-play players aren't a burden, they're an asset. If someone is playing your game for absolutely free, sure, you are losing money on that specific person, but they're there to be opponents or other people for the pay to play players to interact with. B, they will likely tell their friends about the game, and some of them might end up spending money, especially if they want to try and catch back up, like if they want to buy an XP boost in like League or something to try to catch back up to where their friend is. And C, I like to have 3 things in a list.
All right.
So speaking of 3 things in a list, we had 3 things that start with the letter D that we have at least on the list to talk about. And the other one we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but I think it's worth spending some time on, is we've started playing D&D.
Yeah. I think it's definitely worth mentioning. Considering that turns out none of us, even Shizzle's experience was basically nothing. Have really played, well, outside of you, sorry. Really played D&D.
And even then, like, I'm not super familiar with 5th edition specifically. Like, if we were playing 3.5 or playing Pathfinder, I would know my way around it easily. But we're not. We're playing 5th edition.
Yeah. Which
is good. I'm really liking 5th edition. I'm just not as familiar with it.
I don't know the difference.
So we're kind of all...
But I'm having fun. And it seems like a pretty smooth experience overall, which I'm guessing the editions is kind of what that's for, to kind of smooth out the experience and make it fun and not so much...
You also have... Not to toot my own horn, but you also have a dungeon master that knows what he's doing and has been putting a lot of effort into it.
You mean
that's a big factor.
You don't just show up? No. I'll toot your horn for you. Is that a phrase? Sure. It sounds weird.
It is now, baby.
I'll toot your horn for you. If you haven't listened to the Dungeons and Doubloons episodes, you really should. If anything, just listen to like one episode, like episode 2. I think we were all a little bit more comfortable. And
that's also where I started using more voices.
Yeah. Episode 2 has a ton of voices, and 3 also. But that's the thing. It's like there's clearly a lot of work that Lore puts into these things. A lot of it's like on the fly. And then of course there's all the different characters that we get from him. We have Herbert, or whatever the fuck that pervert's name is. And then there's Prophet.
Have you heard the good news?
Yeah, there's Prophet, the merchant, the head merchant, the Gallywix of the town.
Yeah.
Then there's like so many different voices. I had no idea you had. all these voices. And then you're the goblin one, all the other ones, it's like, I could probably do that. And then you bust out the goblin voice, and I was like, that doesn't even sound like Lore. Like, a lot of it is like, that kind of sounds like Lore making this voice, but really well. And now it's like, that doesn't sound like Lore at all. That's when you know you've nailed it, You
got a problem with the way I do things?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is very exciting. We have Moon, we have Shizzle, we have Thaddeus, and then we have you and me. And yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's my first time doing any kind of RP, really. And it was really awkward at first. The first episode, I was like, wow, that at the end of the episode, I was like, all right, that was really super awkward. And then everyone's like, that was awesome. You got to do it again. I was like, really? Because I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. But yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And I'm really hoping that there's, that, maybe later down the line, there's like a sci-fi one or like a Mass Effect one or something, because those are the games that those are the universes that I would like to kind of explore a bit more from that perspective, with a little more freedom.
Yeah, for sure. I did a Pathfinder campaign. It was about 5 years ago now. Right before I moved out here. So about 4 years ago now, actually, yeah. Because I did the last session of it like 2 weeks before I left.
Mm-hmm.
But I modified the game sort of on the fly to account for a post-apocalyptic setting. So like the characters were finding like rogue AI constructs and ancient secret, or not ancient, but like secret military bases with high-end equipment that was still working and like so on. It was pretty fun. So we could definitely, like, I wanted to do a basic campaign for because it's everyone's first D&D campaign. So I wanted to do just a basic one just for starters, so that way, like, when you're looking through the book, you don't have to see a dagger and realize that I'm using the same stats for a dagger as I am for a light pick or something. But yeah, we could totally do another setting in the future.
Sweet. Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah, and you're doing fine also, to be clear. Like, especially for your first time really ever RPing. Like, your character is starting to find its own personality, which is good.
I think it was good that Moon
Shizzle is still just playing Shizzle.
Yeah. I can't believe this fucker won't go into a strip club, man. Like, just go in. Just go in. Look at Moon, he's having a great time. No, I think that Moon being gone, like sleeping in somehow at 9 o'clock at night, midnight his time.
He'd been like up all day streaming, so.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Well, fine. No.
I can't cast judgment there, having done that myself so many times. But it totally worked out
because he's a big character. He's the captain, right? Or his father's a captain or something. And so like him not being there, like being down a character like that, and you know, we can't have fucking Thad lead us. That wasn't gonna happen. And Shizzle would just leave us like he does in actual games that we play. So I knew at that moment when we threw Moon over Legs' shoulders to carry him, I was like, fuck, I gotta lead these fuckers. I gotta make decisions here. It was perfect. It was really, really good.
Well, thank you. And like it's I'm glad that I'm able to come up with stuff on the fly that you guys are like. That's the biggest thing, is you guys are I can throw something at you and you guys will do stuff with it until I can come up with another thing. And that's how you can tell that like there's some natural affinity towards role play in the group. Is I can be like, okay, you're at a strip club now, and just leave it at that, because now I have to think about, like, I'm starting to set up a map, or I have to start thinking about what are the characters inside the strip club that they're going to encounter, and so on. And so I can't be like describing the strip club that entire time, especially when it's something that I'm completely winging, like we did with the last episode.
Yeah.
And so I can be like, all right, you guys are at a strip club now, and I'm starting to think about all that stuff, and you guys will just sit and talk for 5 minutes, and I'll be like, oh, thank God, they're going to have a conversation. Okay, ignore that. Start thinking about this other stuff.
Yeah, ignore that while I come up with this shit. It's perfect.
Well, that's why half the times, like, you guys will be, can I do that, lore? And I'll be like, I have no idea. I don't know what you just said.
You're like a dad, dude. It's like, yeah, son, whatever. Whatever you want. You're not even paying attention. Yeah, whatever, kid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
No, it's good. It's a really good group. I've been very happy so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely check that out. We do that every Wednesday at 9 Pacific time. Mike streams it. I stream it. Shizzle streams it. Thad's been streaming it. Moon doesn't usually, but he'll host somebody who is. Usually Thad, I think he hosts. So yeah, definitely check it out. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've been surprised to learn how fully featured Roll20 is also. Like the fact that I can pick like music to play for you guys and everything, and sort of create like a little show with like we have a theme song now, more or less inadvertently, because it's just the same one, and it's like, it's not an official theme song by any means. It's not something that we've licensed or anything like that. But it's a song that is in the Roll20 system. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to play this at the start of each episode when I do the or at each session when I do the what happened last episode thing. And at the end of each session when I'm like, okay, let's stop there, blah, 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 here's your experience and stuff. I had no idea that Roll20 could do any of that.
Yeah, the music part is actually a really good touch, because there's so many moments that were, you know, just driven by the fact that we changed music, you know?
Yeah.
Like for example, in episode 3, when there was a special moment that Thad and Thad's character and Moon's character shared together. And the fact that you were able to like so quickly bust out that song, that very recognizable song, that Like that was just one of those moments where it's like, this is what makes, you know, this type of system and for hosting this stuff really, really cool.
Yeah. I also got to rickroll you
Yeah.
in the middle of the day once.
Just I had the window open and you could see that I was in, and that I was had the window open, and then all of a sudden I'm just sitting there working on something and and I didn't.
And then just in Discord within 3 seconds.
Oh man, yeah.
I didn't. You motherfucker.
I didn't even have. I knew what it was the second before the second Tom hit. I knew where it was coming from and who did it and where to go. You motherfucker.
Yeah. So that's been really fun. Definitely check it out. VODs are available in various locations as well, if you need to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would honestly say, I would say last episode, like, it sucks that Moon wasn't there for half of it, but the fact that he wasn't there put the party in a position that ended up being really entertaining.
That's very.
And then I was really glad that he was able to show up like partway through it, because then I was like, okay, let's just pivot on what they're already doing now and reincorporate him back into the thing. And so we got to have Moon there as well for playing his character, and he's just a really strong role player, so it was good to have him.
Don't go watch the VOD. Don't listen to the VOD, Moon. Trust us. You don't want to know what happened to your body while you were gone. Oh god.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Wednesdays go.
Yeah, Wednesdays. Watch, listen, learn, but nothing useful. So speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, by which I mean speaking of dungeons, by which I mean speaking of horrible places, by which I mean speaking of Reddit, there's a Reddit link in here that I don't know anything about.
What the fuck?
What is this?
All right, so this actually happened end of last week. Valve announced that they will no longer automatically fulfill keys for developers. Basically generate keys for them to combat sales outside of Steam. That alone sounded like, well, wait a minute, like the developers need to get the games out somewhere. Everyone kind of had it. Everyone freaked out, rightfully so. You know, like you want to sell your game on Steam. The best way to get people to play your game, if you want to promote it, right, and you want to give them a key, it has to be on Steam. Like I get links to games, and if there's not a Steam key in there, and it's just like a link to a zip file or a RAR, I'm just like, nah. Like because I don't know, it just Steam, at least I feel like I could trust the content coming from that to an extent. And so yeah, everybody kind of freaked out about that initially. And then the update, I thought the update was even more interesting because it opened me up to something I didn't actually know exists, but I'm not terribly surprised that it does. And so the update, they basically clarify, they're like, well, no, we're talking more specifically, if a developer makes 5,000 in sales, but he has generated 500,000 keys, that's a problem, because we're still footing the bill for all those games being downloaded and for all of that, right? For the bandwidth and all that. And so that's kind of, fucked up. But he said there are cases, where that's even more drastic than that, I guess. Those are the people they want to stop. And the reason why is because, and you know this probably from PUBG and probably from other games too, like CSGO. The market on Valve is a pretty huge thing. Like real money involved in this market. And what people were doing was they would farm cards from their own games by generating a ton of keys and then farm cards and then sell the cards on the market. And so they make a ton, right? Isn't that sound fucking crazy?
That is the biggest jackass thing you could possibly do.
It was just like another form of revenue for them. Like, let's just farm a bunch of, like, we'll just, get 5,000 keys, make 5,000 Steam accounts and just have them all running simultaneously on a bunch of machines or something, right? And just, farm keys or farm unlocks and, inventory items, and then turn around and sell those and turn a profit. Like, even if they sold for, I guess, pennies, or a quarter or something like that, still, that shit adds up if you get a ton of them. And so apparently that was something that people were doing. Oh, turn the cards into gems. Oh, that was the step I was missing. Sorry. Turn the cards into gems. Okay. Yeah, that makes
because they can't sell 50,000 of their Dick Simulator card.
There you go. Yeah. And then build cards.
They can turn it into gems and then
But yeah, card farming is what they were calling it. And they just fucking just farm cards and then turn them into gems and then convert all that and then sell it, and that's how they would turn like an extra profit, which I thought was fucking crazy. It's crazy that exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ingenious, but how many really popular game developers how many successful game developers, I should say, do you think are going to be people that do that?
Oh, that's the thing.
The answer is probably zero.
Yeah, like probably zero. But just like in a free to play environment where there's always like a whale,
Yeah,
there's somebody who is a whale in the key fraud in the card farming area. Someone's a fucking whale. They're down there doing this with their shitty game and granting cards and all that.
Yeah. Side question: who actually buys cards in Steam? What are they even for? I have no concept of what they are other than a thing that I occasionally turn into Steam Balance.
I did sell a couple for Steam Balance a long time ago.
Do people collect them? Do people actually collect them to the extent that they will spend $3 on a card? Because I sold a card for $3 once.
Really? What card was it?
It was it was a foil. Yeah, it was some rare foil something from like some random game that no one was playing. And I was like, okay, it says $3, so sure. And I was like, I'd like $3 more than I would like to figure out why this is important.
Huh. That's fucking interesting. Yeah,
I seriously, I do not understand. I don't know what they're for is the thing. All I know, and I'm not exactly like the sort of person that's going to look at something like Steam and go, well, the only button I ever need on this is the launch PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds button. Ignore the entire rest of the thing forever. I have literally not been able to find what cards are or what they're for.
So, I mean, well, you know what they are because you get them and you see them, right?
Vaguely, I guess. I know that I can turn them into Steam Balance.
So I've gotten a few, mostly they just kind of show up randomly. I probably have a ton of them actually. But they're just a thing to collect, really. Yeah, well, I have a ton. Holy shit, I should sell some of these.
Yeah, they usually sell for like at least 5 cents. Most commonly, I'll sell them for like 8 to 10 cents. I just don't know who is the person out there that I'm selling it to. I don't understand how enough of them exist for this market to exist.
Let's see. I have a foil Rhino from Warframe, 75 cents. I have a foil Rogue Legacy, 20 cents. I have a foil Hypersensitive Bob, so starting at 74 cents, but I seriously doubt anybody's ever sold one for this game.
It will actually tell you when you go to look at it. It will actually, like, if you go to sell it, it will show you a graph that says what the last time it was sold for and for how much.
Let's see, lifetime. Yeah, never.
Okay, good.
I wasn't kidding.
So you should list it for a high price.
For like a crazy price. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my god, I have 375 cards. Where do these all come? I guess, yeah, they just pop up. That little thing that says you have
pretty much every game
in your
that you buy on Steam. Yeah. Like, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is one of the only games I've bought on Steam recently that didn't give me some cards, and it gives you a whole bunch of other shit that you can sell on Steam, so it's fine. Oh, they unlock backgrounds and icons and emoticons on Steam. Okay, so I don't care about any of that stuff. So I will continue selling every single card that I acquire.
Oh god, I have so much garbage. Oh shit, I have a Goner booster pack. What up? Open it up right now. Click, 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 click. And they're all amazing because it's Goner. They're a bunch of normie cards.
So speaking of keys no longer being fulfilled, by which I mean speaking of no one is using these keys anymore, Mass Effect Andromeda has had a sad end to the tale that I think everybody was kind of seeing coming.
It was requested that this happen. There was a thread on r/Mass Effect probably like 3 weeks ago that was like, if you're, oh my god, it's playing an ad. Really? Wow. Hold on. Jesus.
Oh right, yeah. There's this
okay
Gamescom ad that shows up.
That's fucked up. It just played a video right in the middle of all that. Awesome. Anyways, so the what was I saying? Yeah, so 3 weeks ago, Mass Effect people on r/Mass Effect were like, you know, if you're not gonna work on it, fucking tell us. You know, like don't lead us on or whatever. I'm not saying this is a result of that, but when it did happen, people were like, well, fuck, at least they told us. Like, I guess it happened, so there it is, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. They did say that they have a multiplayer team that's going to have some sort of ongoing support and multiplayer content. But the multiplayer, Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer, for me, was even less of a draw than Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Like, I played significantly more ME3 multiplayer than I did Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not because it was bad, necessarily. It just, I don't know, it wasn't interesting. It wasn't hooking me.
Yeah,
at all.
I'll say, before Mass Effect Andromeda came out, I probably said something along the lines of, if it has Mass Effect 3 multiplayer in it, then I'll be happy. And the truth ended up being, I've already played Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. And
yeah, exactly.
That was many years ago, and I'm kind of over it. And so, while it was nice to get in there, we played a couple nights, and it was fun and all that. Ultimately, it was still just kind of like, cool. Yeah, I remember that. That was great. That was the end.
Yeah.
It's the multiplayer support, it's not surprising. You know, it's like, okay, they have multiplayer support. The problem, I think, is so in the game, I'm not going to spoil any too much, but in the game, you have these ships called arcs, and you need to basically, you know, save them. They're like a milestone thing in the game. There is an arc that was kind of a cliffhanger, and they didn't close out that part of the story there in Mass Effect Andromeda. Yeah. And now they say that they're going to wrap up stories, and they specifically mentioned the arc. They're going to wrap up those stories in like comics and whatever else. And that, man, that's kind of hurt. I mean, I didn't finish Mass Effect Andromeda. You've gotten farther than I have, I think.
Yeah, I got a ways through it, but eventually it became the same game over and over again. Which, I don't know. I went through stages with Andromeda, which was, I started off and I did not like it because it did not at all feel like somehow it did not at all feel like Mass Effect. Right. And a big part of that was because the characters that I was invested in weren't there at all. But like, there was 0 Quarians, for example. At least in the early game. I never finished the game. I don't know if any Quarians show up at any point. Mm-hmm. There was just such, it had lost the soul of Mass Effect in there somehow. And it didn't feel like they didn't play up the bad guys well enough to have them feel like anything more than, oh, and we've arrived in this new area and there's an indigenous population we need to defeat, sort of thing. Yeah. Like, if they do, the story took too long to get there. I don't know. So when I started playing it, I was like, this does not feel like Mass Effect. I'm not having fun because this isn't Mass Effect. Then I sort of started to appreciate the game for what it was, which was, okay, yeah, now I'm worried less now about how it's not Mass Effect because I've gotten past that it's not Mass Effect. And now it just feels like a relatively decent, like, exploration-based, open-ended RPG. Okay, this is good. And I was enjoying it. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, fuck, I've been following leads so long now. I've been talking to every single character on my ship constantly, trying to see if there's anything more interesting that they have for me. Like, is there fucking romance or something in here? I don't know. Never got to a point where any of that ever actually happened. Walking, like, I'm doing every single side quest on the various planets, because the way I play games, I feel like I have to complete an area before I can move on to another area, or at least I have to have done everything I can do in a given area before I can move on to the next one, because I don't want to come back if I don't have to.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say, okay, I'm on planet 1.
Totally.
I've now finished planet 1. I'm never coming back to planet 1
That's exactly what I was doing too. Yeah, but when I tried to leave, it's like, oh yeah, go back. I was like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, now it's time to start another planet. And actually, I'd really rather play Horizon or Breath of the Wild or one of the tons of other games that were available at the time. And so it just lost my interest. And so I'm not surprised that it didn't end up doing well. I'm very sad though, because I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. At least the first 2 games and most of the 3rd game. I still think they wrapped it all up in a lazy way.
Oh yeah, no. We could talk forever on that one.
Exactly, we have. You want to know our thoughts on that? Go find like an old episode of Twemo or Legendary or something where we randomly ranted about it.
Or my 45-minute vlog. Like this, like
yeah.
I think we all had rants.
Yeah. But yeah, I am sad for Mass Effect Andromeda, but my God, they had to have seen this coming.
Yeah,
and like there was so much drama with it, like sections of the game getting cut and entire sections of it being redone like prior to release as well. And then for it to come out and immediately become a meme because of the animation issues, like that's
that
bad.
Hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, the animation was so terrible. And then and then you side by side it with like the Mass Effect, and you're just like, what happened?
Yeah, like did they figure they could come up with some sweet AI subroutine that could handle all of this stuff on its own? Because it did.
Oh, exactly, man. Yeah, it was. You know, it just was obvious that EA and Bioware didn't put the love into the franchise that the people had for the franchise. We needed Mass Effect to be, a larger than life experience. Like for book readers, it was like a book reader's, the Song of Fire and Ice or something, like whatever fucking book people like, get all excited about. It needed to be,
there's a lot to read.
It needed to be like that, something crazy.
Yeah.
And it just ended up being, it's just it's a Kingdoms of Amalur of fucking sci-fi games.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kingdoms of Amalur was not bad. It was actually pretty good, I think. But it was so generic.
Yeah.
And it's for a game like Mass Effect to be described as so generic is painful, because like when Mass Effect came out, it was like, oh my God, this is such a breath of fresh air for sci-fi, because it's not yet another Star Trek or yet another, like they actually found ways for it to be different.
Yeah, not be an IP, a huge IP.
Yeah, exactly. And they like it actually you look at something like your Babylon 5, which was Deep Space Nine but a little bit different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like and then something like Firefly comes along, and people are like, oh yeah, I love sci-fi again, because it's not just the same fucking, like, I'm a captain on a ship, here, do captain stuff on my captain ship.
Yeah.
Space!
Wow, yeah.
Like, this is something that I talk about with Olivia a lot, actually, because she will constantly say that she doesn't like sci-fi. And my reaction to that is, just based on what I've seen her watch and enjoy before, I'll be like, no, the problem isn't that you don't. It's not that you don't like sci-fi necessarily, because she's enjoyed things like, what's the one that's on sci-fi? The The Expanse.
Oh, okay.
She was really, really enjoying The Expanse. I'm like, okay, so clearly you can enjoy sci-fi. It's not necessarily that the sci-fi is the problem here. Or maybe The Expanse is something like it was able to overcome the sci-fi-ness.
Yeah,
of
well,
it.
The Expanse.
But from
the Expanse is a very it's the difference between medieval fantasy and high fantasy. You know, it's like The Expanse is medieval fantasy. And I feel like once you get into like Star Trek, Wars, etc., that's high fantasy.
Yeah, like that's a good analogy actually. Like, if you look at like Star Trek, that's high fantasy for sci-fi in the sense that high fantasy is like half of the point is there's elves and wizards and there's magic and isn't it such a fanciful and marvelous world and there's crazy things going on. Like half of the point of Harry Potter is, haha, isn't it entertaining that the brooms brush the floors themselves and so on. And that's fine if that's what you're into, but if that's not what you're into, you're not like if someone says inertial dampers are offline and you just go, well, that was a collection of stupid words. Like you're not going to like Star Trek. It doesn't matter. Like nothing else can possibly go on in Star Trek that you will enjoy because that's the sort of like hard stop. It's like at that point, if someone can spout technobabble and you don't go, oh, interesting, then you're not going to like high sci-fi. But something like a Firefly or The Expanse or something, even to some extent, elements of Star Wars, where it's like, okay, yeah, sure, there's all this crazy stuff going on. But like in Firefly, the point was never, they've got a spaceship. They fly around doing spaceship stuff. Right? The point was always these characters are interacting in this interesting way.
Yeah.
And that was what Mass Effect was able to do really well, I thought, early on. It still scratched a lot of that, hey, it's space sort of itch, but it did it in interesting ways. Mass Effect Andromeda was, hey, it's space.
Yeah.
There's an alien. Isn't that surprising? Oh, you've become allied with them in your first conversation with them ever. Despite the fact that they approached you with armed weapons because you happened across their hidden sanctum that no one is supposed to know exists.
Whoops.
It's a good thing they didn't just blow you out of the sky like they should have. And now you're best friends. Oh, and now you live on their planet. Isn't that great?
There's a few leaps there. I know. They're just like, yeah, it's chill. Come on.
Yeah. The storytelling was so... I don't want to rant about Mass Effect, so I'll just make this quick. That was one of my biggest problems with the storytelling in Mass Effect, is there were certain things where it just dragged forever. Like, I was trying to figure out, hey, Cora, what's your deal? You seem like an interesting and faceted character, because there's clearly something going on here. And my character is supposed to be... Like, I got the Pathfinder role instead of you. There's got to be some sort of rivalry there as well. Come on, let's have some sort of interesting stuff here. And she was just stone-faced the entire time. Like, I could tell that it was leading towards something, because you'd like occasionally get a new breadcrumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, this is going to develop and go somewhere interesting. I want to know how this develops. Took fucking forever, and I never finished it because I just got tired of waiting. Meanwhile, one of the most intriguing possible scenarios, which is first contact with an alien race, gets glossed over in a matter of seconds. It's like, are you here to shoot us? No. Okay, welcome. You live with us now.
Yeah. I think there was like one mission that was like, well, you have to prove yourself to me. Go do this thing or whatever. And I think there might have been like one mission, but it was done so quickly. There was no courting period at all.
Well, and like the dude that you show up with, who's supposed to be like head of security for the entire fucking planet or whatever, is just immediately like, I think I trust him. It's fine.
He's chill.
Let me go be a crew member on their ship.
Oh man, ouch. See, now before I was like, maybe I should give it another shot, but now I don't feel like it at all, because that's exactly where I'm at when I was like, nah, fuck this game.
Yeah. Speaking of fuck this game, I didn't even have this on the list, but I feel like we should talk about it because it makes me actually angry.
Ooh.
Fortnite.
Oh.
Have you played Fortnite?
I haven't, but
that's fine.
The reason why is because I am intensely biased against Tencent, because I have a little bit of history with Fortnite specifically. having worked with their lead guy, because well, just if you know Zam and all the sites we have with like Wowhead and Lol King and all that,
Yeah.
obviously I'm gonna have relationships with head developers of various games because that's what we do. We build sites for them, tools, and so I got insight into the game really early on. And there was a lot of excitement there, and everything sounded really great and everything. And we were coming up with all these ideas, things we could do. And then I left Zam, and then I see it come out. You know, it's Tencent because Tencent owns a chunk of Epic, and it just feels like Tencent just got in and took over, and just started kind of pushing all these mobile or other free-to-play style things, and just
I've heard that theory a lot.
Rammed it in there. That's what it feels like, and I'm just saying this from somebody who has actually worked with them, from my perspective.
Yeah, Fortnite makes me angry. It makes me actually like angry, and here's why. And this is something that's tough for me to express clearly, but I'm gonna try because it's very complicated emotions. There is a really fucking good game in there. There is an incredibly fucking good game hidden in there somewhere. And I don't mean any slight whatsoever against the developers at all. Someone at some point needed to tell them, your game is good, please stop developing it. Right? Like, it's pretty rare that you say, man, like I found myself saying to myself, I really hope they remove a whole lot of these features in an update. Just straight up remove them. I really hope they take a pass on this game and remove half of this game. But it's true. Like, there's a really fun evolution of the Orcs Must Die sort of gameplay in there. And that's really, really good. And like the first level that you play is really fun. It's confusing because there's 800 UI elements. But if you can get through it, you're like, okay, yeah, this is really, really fun. And then you come out of it and it's like starts pointing you towards a few random systems and you think to yourself, oh, okay, I can figure out those systems at another point. I'm going to get back into the game and play the game a little bit some more. All of this stuff it's showing me, I'm sure will make sense if I play the game a little bit more. And you get into the second mission, you go through the second mission, you're like, wow, that was actually really fun. It got really difficult towards the end. You're like defending a base from a whole bunch of zombies that are coming in. The art style is super endearing. The voice acting is all really solid and endearing. Like, it's a really, really, really good game. And then you get out of your like second or third or fourth mission. I forget exactly. You get out of the tutorial area basically, and it goes, "Hey, you unlocked these 3 new things." I'm like, okay, well, I still haven't figured out what the 3 things you showed me before were, because I thought I was going to play the game a little bit more, and as a result of that, I would figure out what those were. So now I have 6 things that I don't know what they are.
Okay, just add it to the pile over there.
Yeah. I've unlocked a captain and a troop and a power grid and a trap and a talent point and a research point. It goes through the worst fucking process of it too, because you can kind of tell that someone at some point realized, holy shit, we have too many fucking mechanics in this game. We need to find a way to pace them somehow and introduce them to people one at a time. And the way they end up doing that, they never get to one at a time. You get like 8 mechanics all at once constantly. But like there was one point where I was sitting there and like I was playing it and I was streaming and I was already kind of fuming a bit because I'm like, Jesus fuck, this game is fun. Please stop throwing extra shit at me that's making me not play your game. The only reason that I'm not playing your game right now is because of your game. Your game is currently preventing me from playing it. Please stop giving me more housekeeping to do so I can get back into your game, which is fun. And then it was like, okay, you've got these talents. I'm like, great, I can do talents. And it opens up this like not quite PoE, Path of Exile level talent tree, but somewhat similar, right? Like fairly expansive looking talent tree, more than a World of Warcraft talent tree has ever been. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, talent tree. I can do talent tree. Okay, I want this next thing. It says blah blah blah, increases blank, does blank, unlocks blank. I'm like, ugh. It's gonna unlock something if I click this. I know it. and I clicked on it, and 2 new progression systems came up. One of which was another fucking identical talent tree.
Oh man.
I spent a talent to get another talent tree. Oh my god. And that's why I get so mad at it, is because
Can I quote something that you said to me about this?
Sure.
You said, I don't even want to learn what all these systems are. This was the time that you were actually playing it, that you mentioned this in our chat. And you were just like, holy shit, Fortnite, I don't even want to learn what all these systems are. And that is such a terrible thing for somebody who's used to playing a bunch of games that have a lot of fucking systems to say, like, not terrible for you to say, but just terrible that is the verdict that you've reached, where you're like, I don't want to do this, you know. It's I like the game, I just don't want to do the admin part of it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got homework from Fortnite.
Exactly.
In your free time, figure out what all this shit is.
Yeah.
And it's like, the reason I get so mad about, like, if a game is just bad and it's clear that the developers didn't know what they were doing and they were just either inexperienced or made bad choices or whatever. Like, if a game is just bad and it's clear this is bad because these devs don't know how to make a video game, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, that's a bad game. I'm not going to waste time on it. I am going to judge it. I will judge it harshly but fairly, and I will move on with my life. A game like Fortnite, where I'm like, this game, you guys clearly know how to make fun video games. You clearly know how to make something really, really fun, and you are clearly good, solid, competent developers. You just did that way too much. You repeated the develop a thing process about 40 too many times. And as a result, this game could have been amazing and it could have been really, really fun. And now I feel like I've been robbed of that experience. And that's when I start to get angry, is it's like someone has taken my fun away, is sort of how my brain starts to perceive it.
Yeah.
So that's why I get mad.
If you've played Fortnite, and I'll be honest, I haven't. I couldn't even tell you what the game looks like. I've avoided it because I know that I'm so biased against it, right? If you've played Fortnite, based off of what you've experienced and what Laura's said, what other people have said, these are the same guys that made or Epic is the same people that put out like one of the second best selling IPs to Halo on Xbox, fucking Gears of War. You know, like, and that is, Gears of War was a huge franchise. And look at that game and then look at Fortnite. Like, just from a systems perspective, like, yeah, they're 2 totally different games. But even though Gears of War had its own kind of progression, it was nothing like what I've seen or what I've read about Fortnite. It's crazy. These are the same devs. I'm sorry, not to say same devs, but this is, this is Epic Games we're talking about here.
Same general leadership, theoretically.
Exactly. And so that's why I feel like, that's what makes me feel like, okay, Tencent, because I know that Tencent had a hand in it, but I felt like Tencent had too much of a hand in it, 2 hands they had in it when they should have just had 1.
Yeah. I'm less quick to immediately jump on the Tencent train. Like, it sounds like the sort of thing that could theoretically happen, especially because Fortnite was in development for quite some time.
Yeah, you send somebody in there and say, hey, can you guys, like, we need to send somebody in there to get this thing out because we're
yeah, exactly. Like, I could totally see someone coming in and going, okay, look, here's the deal. We're your investors, and this game needs to be successful, and it needs to be profitable. Find a way to make that happen, and then leaving. And then the leadership of the actual game studio making some terrible choices trying to achieve that goal. Totally can see that happening. Yeah. I'm less inclined to immediately jump on the Tencent wagon for it, as opposed to necessarily like things that they set in motion, just because Tencent owns like a significant portion of pretty much everybody nowadays. Yeah. And like, Tencent owns they don't own a majority by any means, but they own a good chunk of Activision Blizzard. They own pretty much all of Riot Games, if I'm remembering that relationship correctly. And this is all like you can look it up and find out what all does Tencent Holdings hold. The answer is a lot.
Yeah, if you're not aware, you'd be surprised. I mean, Tencent alone, just Tencent Games China, this year, their mobile sales have surpassed PC sales. Like just their fucking mobile sales have surpassed global PC sales, which is huge. Just Tencent, not obviously mobile sales as a whole has done it, right? Just fucking Tencent has done it. And so on top of that, they have their hands in and their money in a lot of game dev studios.
Yeah.
That's why they bought
I
Zam.
remember,
that was really early on when they were like kind of getting a feel for what they wanted to do, and they were just buying up a whole bunch of things. And they bought Zam, and then they bought, oh god, what else they bought around the same time? I can't remember. They bought a lot of projects that they just kind of left alone. Like Zam was one of them. They bought Zam, and then they kind of just like fucking left.
Yeah.
They bought Zam from Affinity Media. And then something Steve Bannon, but that's a long story. But yeah, so it's they've been doing this for a long time, and if you're just now coming around to it, then you missed out. All this time they've been working behind the scenes.
Yep, and that's also like based on what Zam went through. I was no longer at the company at the time, but based on what I know, Zam went through when eventually Tencent did step in. That's kind of their thing, right? Is they buy something because they're like, this seems like it's profitable. We'll buy that, and they'll continue to make money, and we'll make money because now we own that.
Yeah.
But then as soon as it starts to seem like there might be a slip in there somewhere, or that they catch wind that maybe, like, I'm not even casting any aspersions against Zam. I don't really know what the specific details were there. But like maybe it's not optimized quite right or something. Like maybe you're spending too much time on these projects over here and not enough on these projects over here. And as a result, you could be X% more profitable if you made these changes. That's when they'll send someone to step in. And depending on who that someone is, things can go very differently.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. What else on this list do you want to... I kind of want to talk about this one.
I mean, this is our biannual episode, so if we go a little long, I'm fine.
Okay, cool. Because I'm good to get to the rest of the stuff we got on the list. Honestly. All right. So speaking of, okay. Speaking of Fortnite, by which I mean speaking of things that have way too much to them. By which I mean speaking of Final Fantasy requiring 170 gigabytes of hard drive space. Final Fantasy 15 on PC will require 170 gigabytes of hard drive space.
Basically an entire SSD or M.2. Definitely an M.2 for most people. An SSD, a good chunk of it. Like at least 10%. I don't know too many people that are running around with 2 terabyte SSDs. So yeah, most people probably have a gig maybe. And so at the end, M.2s, I think 512 is kind of the most that the average person is running. The high, middle class, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fucking space, dude. That's a huge amount of space. But it says that a maximum of 8K resolution support and all sorts of PC exclusive graphical goodness. But it comes at a cost.
Cost of an extra hard drive.
That's step 1. Step 2, recommended system requirements. OS, fine. CPU, a 3770.
OS is Windows 10, so a lot of people will have to upgrade.
Oh, okay, sure, that's right. There's people that are still not on that.
Yeah, for some reason.
Which is fine. I get it.
It's like still using Vista when Windows 7 came out. Get on
surprisingly,
that shit.
like, I mean, I expected, given that they want a they want a 1080 Ti as the recommended graphics card. I kind of expected to see more than 16 gigabytes of system memory. I mean, I know that the card itself stores a lot of information there, but I just kind of expected them to try to cram a bunch more into RAM. But yeah, this is. It's one of the first publishers to classify 4K resolution support as official recommended spec. Like that's going to be something that they're going to have to include in the recommended system specs. Like they should say Final Fantasy 14 4K recommended system requirements, because people are going to read this,
or like include a 4K monitor in the system requirements thing.
Yeah.
so that you know, oh yeah, they're aiming, because that's like, we were talking about this before the show, and I was like, oh yeah, I see exactly what they're doing here. They want to be able to say 4K resolution support, and they want to be able to continue saying a maximum of 8K resolution. So what that means is they need to tell you what will kind of run it at 8K and will do well at 4K.
Yeah.
Because if they say, oh yeah, recommended system requirements are this, and then in 2 years 8K monitors comes along and someone is still running the recommended system requirements and can't get that 8K to run smoothly-ish, despite all of Square Enix constantly saying maximum of 8K resolution support, then they're in trouble. Because then that guy, well, probably not in actual trouble.
Sure, yeah.
But then that guy can say, hey, I have your recommended system requirements and I can't get 8K. I've been bamboozled.
Bamboozled.
Give me my 3-year-old money back. And the hard drive space doesn't surprise me. I said this before also. And it doesn't surprise me for a weird reason, but it was immediately what connected in my head. So you remember playing Final Fantasy on, like, PlayStations, right? Like, I remember playing Final Fantasy IX on PlayStation, and it was the same for 7 and 8. These were always the games that took 4 fucking discs to actually play.
That's true. That's true.
You could have any other video game, 1 disc. Single disc for any other video game. Final Fantasy took 4 discs 100% of the time. So I saw that and I was like, yeah, that's about 4 World of Warcrafts. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the cutscenes that they have. You know, it's like all those cutscenes, and then, you know, they obviously don't render them out. Like, we're not going to get full 8K pre-rendered video because that would be absurd. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to do that, because if you notice in a lot of games that you play, whenever you get to a cutscene that looks like it was like in game or something, right? Like an in-game cutscene, usually it's a lower quality version. But yeah, I don't. It's gonna be a ton of cutscenes. Probably, I don't even know how many hours in that game.
Yeah,
lots and lots of dialogue. I'm sure, right? Like tons and tons of dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, the game's been out for a while now. This is just the PC version of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. But I mean, imagine the difference to how it would look though on a PC.
Yeah.
My only God, which Final Fantasy was it? No, never mind. It wasn't. Oh God. My last really bad experience with a game that was like primarily a console game that then out of nowhere had a PC version was actually Metal Gear Solid.
I was gonna say Mass Effect Andromeda.
Metal Gear Solid was one of those games that at the time, this, you know, the first one, it was, you know, it's pretty much you play on PlayStation or whatever. Not necessarily PC. It was kind of like an afterthought, I felt like. And it fucking played like an afterthought. Like, it was a juggernaut of a game at the time. It really was so much better looking. Like all the textures and everything. I was like, wow, this looks amazing. But I never had a machine. I don't think today I could run the game. But yeah, I hope that that's not the case for Squeenix in this case. But I mean, they already have Final Fantasy 14, so they have at least a section of people that are knee deep in PC shit, or cross platform stuff, I should say, actually. So I'm sure they'll get that shit in line.
Yeah, I won't.
I need to go buy another hard drive.
Yeah. So speaking of extra things that you should buy, upgrades that you should get. This is interesting, actually, but not entirely unexpected, which is that the HTC Vive got a $200 price cut. And after Oculus did it, I think everyone was sort of like looking at Valve or looking at HTC and being like, huh?
Yeah.
Come on. We know it's coming. Come on, do it. And they did it.
Yep.
So the Vive is cheaper now.
It's, well, no, the oh wait, did they raise the price back up? Because I think they dropped it to like $589. Because it's like $10 cheaper. I mean, I just go fucking look at Oculus Rift. Because it comes in a package, Oculus Rift Plus Touch. Yeah, but the price cuts are, it's a godsend, because the more people you get into the game, the more people will buy, buy, and then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oculus Rift plus touch virtual reality system Prime right now for $399. So the price is actually still sitting at $399. And yeah, the Rift totally needed it. I'm sorry, fuck. The Vive, sorry, I got the fucking wrong price here. Yeah, the Vive totally needed it.
Yeah. Like, the problem that the Vive had, for me at least, it was obviously it's a great experience. Has been a great experience. The first real like modern VR I did on a Vive. I was playing Job Simulator, and I was like, holy shit, this is really fun. Now I'm convinced, and I have to get a VR setup because this actually works. Like, it's not the shitty VR I grew up with, where someone was like, here, it's gonna be great. It's at 2 frames per second, and you are a red blob. Run around with all these other red blobs. Great, thanks guys. It's like, okay, no, this actually feels like virtual reality. I'm actually able to look around. I can move around the room a little bit. This feels good. But at $800, like, not only was it more expensive than something like a PSVR, which is I think $200 for the bundle still. I don't remember exactly.
The Oculus VR?
No, PSVR.
PSVR.
PlayStation VR.
I think it's like $200, $300, something like that.
Yeah. I can actually look it up real quick. PlayStation. Sorry, PlayStation VR launch bundle. Oh no, the launch bundle is. Oh wait, that's the launch bundle. Never mind. I don't know how much it is because there aren't any available right now, because they sell out right away, because they're only like $200 or $300 for a PSVR setup. Previously at $800 for the HTC Vive, you could spend $800 and get access to the handful of VR games that are available right now. Which there's some good ones, don't get me wrong, but there's not a ton. Or you could buy a PlayStation 4 and a PSVR, and now you have a PlayStation 4 that can play a shit ton of PlayStation 4 games as well. And you don't get as good of an experience, but you get pretty damn close. Like, I own a PSVR, and while the visual quality, I don't have a PS Pro yet. I want to get one of those and see if that helps the visual quality, because I've heard it has.
It does. It does.
The visual quality, even with just the base PlayStation, it's worse, but it's not so much worse that it's really a problem if you just want to do some VR. And my God, like, if you can get a PlayStation and a VR setup, or just a VR setup, like, in my opinion, the PlayStation and VR setup is the obvious choice. And if you already have a PlayStation, then you don't even need the, like, it's literally just a cheap way to get into VR. And there was no amount of the Vive, especially for the person who already has a PlayStation, there's no amount of the Vive being better that was worth the extra, like, $700 or $600 that you'd have to spend to get into it. Not to mention that your computer needs to be an absolute beast. Or at least it did at the time. So the Vive going down to $600, that now puts it under that I can buy a PlayStation and a VR headset sort of cutoff, which makes it a lot more attractive in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's much more of a realistic option for someone who wants to get into VR.
There basically seems like there's a price point. There's like a 3-tier price point now for getting into VR, like you described, right? There's kind of a segmented ecosystem for the PlayStation. While at the same time, if you already own a PS4, then you could kind of get into it more cheaply, right? And then the Rift is sitting at $400. You still need a PC, yeah. Then the Oculus is sitting at a much higher price point. At that point, it's funny because, like, 6 months ago when they were both like the same price, except with touch, I think they were probably about the same price, give or take $100. It just came down to, well, do you think you're going to use room space? If you're never going to use room space, then get the Oculus. If you're going to use room space, then get the Vive. And that's kind of what it boiled down to, because both of them had their pros and cons for sure. That now, this is a significant price drop for sure. It'll just get more people who maybe don't want to be involved with Facebook. They're like, okay, cool. Now I'll get into that and play all those games on Steam and whatever else. I'm actually wondering if this is a like when is E3? So maybe next E3, I wonder, or sometime next year, if we're gonna see the next generation of headsets.
Yeah, maybe,
because
we're getting to about that point.
Because Xbox does this. Xbox 360 was like every winter, like severely slashing prices. And then, leading up to
here's the Xbox 360 Slim. And
and they were just just dropping prices, and then they announced the Xbox One within the next 6 months. And so I wonder if this means within the next year we'll see a couple new headsets from this. I feel like there is a natural step for the Vive, which is to basically go with what's it called, wireless and the audio strap, because that's something that's kind of nice about the Rift, is that it has the audio the headphones built in. And with the Vive, you can just plug in any headphones that you want, sure, but I still kind of like that it was just attached to the headphones and it wasn't like a dangly cable hanging off the back. But yeah, if it came with wireless, because there is a wireless adapter now for the Vive. And
yeah, like Intel made it or something.
Yeah, it's they sell it. Yeah, they sell it in Japan or in China. They might have it on their local site for the States and everywhere else.
Yeah, my boss actually linked me to it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's like, because he's super into VR and stuff, and so he was like, "This is going to be the next big move, is wireless."
Oh yeah. I tried to buy it from the Chinese site, and I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to risk throwing my money in the wind like I did for the Virgin Killer sweater. Never did get that.
The what sweater?
Nothing. The accessories for the Vive. Let's see. They're the Vive Tracker now. The Vive Tracker is fucking dope, dude. Have you heard about this? Vive Tracker is basically just like the wand, right? The controller. But it's just the gyro portion of it, so the motion sensing, tracking, and all that. And it's just a little, probably the size of I don't know, like a tape measure or something like that. And you just pluck it onto whatever piece of equipment you want, and you could track it. So if somebody wanted to make a game, like a shooting game, and use an actual prop, rifle or something like that, you could just attach it to the end, and it would just calculate in the game where the location is of that item. And so people are doing it with someone was doing it with dancing or something like that, where it's basically Just Dance or whatever that game is called, or Dance Dance Revolution, but you just use these sensors. You just put them in on your gloves or whatever, and then you could just basically work out or whatever, and the game would know with such precision exactly where you are and where your hands are and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what we're headed for at this point. There was a someone's come up with a new VR treadmill thing also now. I was just seeing the other day. Did you see that thing?
I saw it.
It still looks super janky because the guy wasn't able to move faster than about 1 foot per hour.
Yeah, and every time he stopped, he would slide backwards.
Yeah. Well, that seemed like that was intentional, because I was just resetting him on the thing to the point where he was able to take a step forward. If he stopped in the center of the thing, then when he goes to take his first step forward, he's going to be behind it, or he's going to step on over the front of it, basically, because basically the thing looked like it was too small, and it looked like it would have been way better if it was another.
You're right. Yeah, too small for sure.
Yeah, but it's a really if they can actually get something that's working that way now, give that tech another year or two, and it'll be to the point where you can actually in a VR environment, you can move around as though you were actually in Call of Duty, and running around in different directions and so on, and that could be really cool. I think it's a good first glimpse at a tech that will eventually be good.
Every what's it called? Every convention, there's always a VR setup with somebody suspended in a harness or something running along the ground or something like that, and there's always an okay line to check it out. But yeah, people can't survive a treadmill without falling on their fucking face. Like they have to figure out some way to make it so that you can move freely, or at least somewhat freely, and also not fall on your ass because of local motion. Like you know what it's like to be in a VR set. Like if you're in a moving vehicle and the vehicle comes to a stop, your body tries to compensate.
Yeah, like playing Valkyrie and doing a barrel roll is so disconcerting because you expect to feel like momentum as you're spinning around, and instead you just, oh god, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. Like most of the existing VR sort of treadmills that they've done before have made they've come from an angle of, okay, we need to figure out how to get a person to stay in place while the controller becomes the ground beneath them. So when they step forward, the thing moves because of the like their foot pushes the thing backwards, and that's how we know that they should be stepping forward in the game. What this one actually did was, let's set up a treadmill that can move in every direction and can spin itself around and stuff, so that it works, and you can like turn side to side and stuff. And let's make it just watch what his feet is doing and figure out how to respond to that in a way that he doesn't fall over. And that's really interesting to me, because it's sort of just looking at it from a completely different perspective and saying, okay, so we're no longer moving it because his foot hit. We're moving it because he's moving his foot. Interesting, because like that also means things like when you go to step forward, if you step forward with your left foot, your right foot will start to go away from you, which is how you would actually feel if you were moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. I'm excited about it, but I don't think it's going to be useful for another.
I found a thread, and the top comment is so fucking perfect. It says, this guy says, "This will be great for all the VR walking slowly across a skating rink and sneakers games I'm interested in playing."
That's accurate. Yeah. The way that it looks, the guy walking around in it, it's clear. Like, okay, as a tech demo, I'm interested. For a consumer product, no.
Definitely not.
No. I have a cough coming, apparently.
It's here.
Yeah, yeah, apparently. Oh, damn. My nose has been like running like crazy. I've been sneezing a whole bunch the past couple of days.
You sleep with windows open?
I usually don't. I probably should start.
I was going to say don't do it, because that's the issue. It does it for me.
Yeah, I think the problem is, like, I'm actually allergic to cats. My 2 cats don't bother me.
You get used to them.
I get used to them as part of it, and also like I think I'm only really allergic to certain types of cats. That makes sense. Like it's and so like it's cat dander in general, and like so sometimes if I'm like laying my face on a pillow that the cats have been laying on and I haven't realized it for the past month and a half or 6 months or year or something. It's like, okay, there's a lot of cat on this pillow, and now my eyes start itching. And I think the problem is that I need to open the windows at night, because that way we get Orange County fresh air in here, which is different than actual fresh air. But some of the cat dander and stuff can go out the window. Yeah. So the only other thing we have on our list that I just wanted to make a quick update on is that I have started, as a rule, and I now don't remember if I actually did this last weekend or not. I think I did. I think I did on Saturday. I'm trying to, every week on my stream, as part of just one of my regular streams, give an update about Project D.E.C.K, which is the game I've been working on for the past 400 years. Off and on. And the reason for that is just that I want to actually start making some progress on it, and if I don't give myself a deadline on it, it falls behind everything else. So yeah, every week I will give some sort of update on the game, and hopefully it will actually come into existence at some point.
Are you just gonna host it on a stream? Like you start off a stream and kind of talk about it a little bit, and then
yeah, exactly. Just like yeah, I've been lazy. I haven't been clipping it out. But it's always like at the start of the stream.
You should clip it out and just like it's kind of like Dev Diaries, basically.
Yeah, I should.
You won't do it.
I might.
Oh, okay.
But I also might not. But yeah, actually making some headway on it. I'll try and find the ones that I did already and clip those out and then link them for people. I basically went through a sort of like, all right, I'm trying to make too many things out of this game, and I need to slim down the scope so that then I can expand later if I want to.
Fortnite gave you the inspiration for.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe somewhere in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, no, I'm doing too much, and I need to break this apart. That's a really interesting theory. I wonder if that, like, it wasn't a sort of, like, it wasn't me sitting down and going, wow, Fortnite has too much shit, I should cut shit out of my game that I'm working on.
It just plants that in your brain. Like, you see, it's like, wow, this is what it's like to have too much shit in your game. You know, and like, they should really like take some of this stuff out. And then that was just in your brain. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, for me, it was more just a matter of, like, because I was doing a thing before where I was like, okay, I want this to be a game that you can play against a randomly generated deck as well as play with a dungeon master. And the result of that, like, I'm still really interested in trying to make that happen at some point. But the result was that whenever I went to design anything, I was having to kind of come up with 2 versions of absolutely everything. Which I personally, as a game designer, am not strong enough to be able to overcome all of that. And so the problem I was having was I'd start thinking about an idea and I'd be like, okay, well, this idea is cool, but it doesn't work in this environment, and it doesn't work in this environment, and it doesn't work in that environment for these various different reasons. Okay, let me think of a different approach. No, that one doesn't work either. And then eventually I'd just be like, fuck it, this is hard. I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm going to play video games instead. So I've slimmed it down quite a bit, and I'm actually making progress on it again, which is
nice.
Good. I'd rather eventually have a game than continually decide that my ideas are bad because they don't fit part of my game that I don't need.
So when's closed beta or alpha? When's early access?
I'm actually working on a deal with Bohemia for publishing.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, it'll be out about a year or 2 after DayZ.
Yeah. Game is still early access.
It'll still probably come out before Half-Life 3 though.
By a long shot, I'm sure.
Don't get your hopes up, episode.